The Rod Arquette Show on Talk Radio, 105.7 FM, 570 AM. He was the nation's drug czar, a four-star general, serving in a number of areas around the world to protect the United States of America. He is now involved. He's a national security expert, and he's here in Utah today talking to students at Westminster, and we're excited to have a few moments with General Barry McCaffrey to talk about the situation in the world today. General, how are you? And thank you for joining the program. General, let me ask you, I mean, you could probably talk a couple of hours about the issues facing the security of the United States, but what do you see right now as some of the key issues?
Well, by the way, if I may, let me first of all thank you for the opportunity to be on your show and to express my appreciation of Westminster College, the president, the dean of the business school, the board of trustees. I've had an unbelievable day here. We had a seminar with some of their honors students who were tremendously impressive. I talked to the ROTC, some of the ROTC students, and then tonight I'll do a leadership lecture at 7:30. Which, by the way, has been supported by Wells Fargo with tremendous, assistance to the school. So it's been a lot of fun. And but the noontime lecture was on national security issues, and some of them jumped to mind. I mean, Rod, we're facing this short-term emergency in Afghanistan, in which we're trying to withdraw 68,000 U.S. troops and a mass of equipment and Connex containers. We're 800 miles from the ocean, and we've got a political system we're working with, President Karzai, which is absolutely devastating any possible political support for continued engagement in Afghanistan among Europeans and the American people. So it's a real challenge, as well as the short-term challenges from North Korea. 3 to 8 nuclear devices, some unbelievable threats, a new president in South Korea, and she will be tested by the North, possibly in the next 60 to 90 days with some provocation. So there are some short-term challenges that are worrisome.
General, let me ask you about the state of readiness of the U.S. military today. Knowing sequestration is before us, a lot of us feel, do not pick on the military. We need a strong military. What is your assessment as to where we are as being able to respond to a major problem around the world today?
Well, I actually don't think in the short term it's materially affected. Some of this will come into play over the next 60 to 90 days. It'll involve a short-term decrement of a couple of percent of the defense budget. I think it's Rod. It's more stupid than it is devastating in its impact on readiness. I mean, we're going to furlough Department of Defense employees 1 day a week. But what happens to somebody? But it's not just the Department of Defense. It's also Health and Human Services. What about the civilian employee who's feeding the lab rats? I mean, do they not eat on the 5th day? So this across-the-board approach was a failure of Congress to do their job. An even bigger problem, though, is continuing resolutions. We actually don't have a budget and haven't had year after year. We operate with the approval of Congress to continue spending under a continuing resolution. That means you get the same money you got last year, which means programs that are no longer viable continue to get funded, and new programs that are vitally important don't have any appropriation support. So I think we've got an illogical, bad governance system that's going to cause us significant problems in the next year or two.
I want to move on to another topic. We mentioned, of course, you were the nation's drug czar for a number of years. What are your thoughts? We have 2 states in the country now, in Colorado and Washington, that have legalized marijuana, and it puts the federal government in a very, very difficult position. Where do you see this going?
It is outrageous. I don't know how we're going to resolve this. Both those states, and I have a home out in Seattle, passed state laws that are in direct conflict with federal law and international treaties. And by the way, I tell people, we don't care whether you're abusing marijuana or alcohol or heroin. What we don't want is adolescents binge drinking beer, smoking pot, and using ecstasy. We don't want them to grow up in a permissive drug environment. And I think both these states, 10 years from now, we're going to regret this. For for 14 years, adolescent drug use went down. For the last 3 years, it's gone up. This is not good policy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, what kind of a message does these type of votes in states like this, and I guess other states are considering them as well, General, send to young people in this country?
No, I think it's nuts. I mean, the whole notion that if you legalize addictive drugs, and by the way, marijuana with THC content levels of 15% and above are dramatically addictive. And if you like being stupid, then you'll like smoking a lot of pot. But mostly what I'm concerned about, I tell people, if you're 40 years old living in a log cabin up in the mountains and have 3 giant pot plants behind your house, knock yourself out. I don't want to see our children, I don't want to see airline pilots smoking pot on Sunday night. I don't want eye surgeons smoking marijuana. And by the way, I'm not too keen on a drug-dazed society in general. This is bad policy. We want our family members and our employees not leaving a drugged lifestyle.
I couldn't agree with you more, General. I know one final question. I know you're speaking tonight up there at Westminster on leadership in complex organizations. Have you found the magic potion for leadership?
Well, we got a lot of good leadership in the country. Occasionally we focus on our shortcomings, but you look at we're still the wealthiest nation on the face of the earth in the history of mankind. We've still got this incredibly effective military force, and it's Utah's young men and women that are out there that have taken 58,000 killed and wounded defending us. And by and large, we have good political leadership, particularly at county and municipal and state level. So I think we've got a lot of good leaders. The academic system's still first rate. The healthcare system is world class. There's a lot of things going right in the country. But, at the end of the day, the only important thing that counts is leadership, not just in the military or in business, but in the academic community, in the media. Do we have people of wisdom and dedication and common sense? That's clearly what Westminster College is up to. That's what these young people are getting out of higher education, values and knowledge.
Yeah. Well, General, appreciate your time. I know you've got a hectic schedule up there. Thank you for spending some time here in Utah. We'll talk to you down the road.
Rod, good to be with you.
All right. Joining us on our Newsmaker line, that is General Barry McCaffrey, one-time drug czar, 4-star general up at Westminster today, and it was great to hear and spend a few minutes with him on the show this afternoon. More coming up next. Hear about it, talk about it on Talk Radio 105.7 FM, 570 AM.